Welcome to the Phil Carew Show 2.0. Very special guest here, Craige Thompson, business owner and fellow martial artist. Welcome to the Phil Carew Show, Craige.
Thank you for having me on, mate.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It is. I'm glad you came on because I've got some interesting questions for you as well in regards to other sort of lots of events that are coming up as well. Just sort of some juicy information to get from yourself as a martial artist. Now, a lot of the time, most of my guests, they do get some questions that can be quite formal, but I've also got some informal ones that are quite, as well as most people might not know this, but Craige and I know each other off show, and we've had a bit of a laugh, and you'll be able to get to know what Craige like well outside the dojo, and we've been discussing off the camera as well. We've got a great passion for quite a lot of other things that we've got in common as well, which I didn't realise we've got more in common than I expected. So you'll be able to hear some sort of great information from Craige. So in the sort of martial arts world as well, Craige.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first show interest in martial arts?
Oh, that's an easy one. So the first time I ever showed any interest in martial arts, I was about 6 years old. And like most 6-year-olds at the time, every morning I used to go to my mate's house because his parents had got cable on our street before everybody else did. So my first exposure and experience to martial arts was actually through the Power Rangers.
Excellent.
So like most kids, I wanted to be a Power Ranger.
Who doesn't, mate? I wanted to be one as well, to be honest, when I first saw it.
Yeah, I don't think the spandex would suit me now, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I was wondering what Zordon looked like. I remember the first time I saw the movie, then I realised he was one himself before he actually got into that big sort of Zordon, trapped in that big crystal. But yeah, goodness me, it's like it seems to be right around that time, when a lot of people, other than just, back in the 70s and 80s, where they had a lot of influence with like the Bruce of the martial arts sort of industry, in the film. Can you remember what it was like when you had your first lesson as a martial artist?
Yeah, so I actually didn't get into formal classes until a lot later. I started in judo at an after-school club under Sensei Keith Jones, who runs, or at least he used to run, Wolverhampton Youth Judo. And that was my first exposure to it all. It was quite an overwhelming experience because I didn't really have like a decent growth spurt until my sort of mid to late teens anyway. So I was always smaller than everybody else around me. And in judo, you tend to just get mauled and thrown around like a rag doll, unless you get a bit of resilience and skill to prevent it from happening.
Oh, wow! It's always those sort of moments when you don't get your first few lessons. It's what as you like when you first try on your first gi and put a belt as well, and how it's made. Because it's not like the way when most people look at it, how you would just tie a belt and put a knot. You have to put it in a particular way, don't you? Backwards and reverse, and then tie it through. So like in between, because it looked really odd. Because like how it tied, it has to be tied in, and then you do the knot last. I thought, wow. First time I was shown that, I thought, well, that was a strange way to do your belt. But then I realised because did you have one, or did you have one where they had to show you how to do your belt, or was there like a poster? Because sometimes there's posters on the dojo, like when you go in these old school dojos, or you can smell the
Smell the
like red heat. That's it. All the I thought, the heck is that? I was like, the smell of like all this old school, like you would do when you people talk about blood, sweat, and tears, old school sort of gold gyms and all the gyms, you know, where they got no machinery. It was just one with plates, and when you do all your putting all the steel plates on, and it's like that. But with the martial arts dojos, where you go in, you got all the martial art posters and everything like that. Was that kind of dojo that you went into? You know, when you saw all the martial art?
With my initial, with my initial exposure, as I said, it was an after-school club. So we basically had the old sports hall at Willingsworth, and the place was always drafty. Even in the summer, it was like an ice box. Wow. And we had to sort of get all the mats out, lay the mats before lesson started. And they were horrendously old, cracked. The old 2 meter by 1 meter thick judo mats. We'd set the space up and obviously then just do quite an informal sort of bowing and then get straight into drills. And yeah, most places I've sort of trained in, I've not actually trained formally in a full time set space until I built my own. So yeah, it was always, you know, very grassroots. So I've been brought up in martial arts through grassroots training. It's always been the community centres, the local churches and things like that. And I've been quite fortunate in that every club that I've been a part of, even up to the one that I'm now running, the instructors have always kept the places fairly well equipped, and they've always really looked out for the students. So when I moved on from judo, I was in Japanese jiu-jitsu for a very short while at a community centre that was a stone's throw from my house. They had some nice mats to sort of fill the space out with. And when I eventually moved into the karate jutsu school that I'm part of now, and my instructor, Sensei Westwood, he paid money out of his own pocket to ensure that we had good mats to sort of train on, that we had pads that we could work with. And I can't even count the amount of times that he personally paid for me to wear a gi when I couldn't afford one myself, you know. So I've been quite fortunate to be brought up through that grassroots sort of thing with very good, very passionate instructors, you know.
Well, you know, you don't get better than that. You know, when you've got instructors like that, that's more than you can ask for, isn't it? You know, and when you got something like that, it's something that you never forget in your lifetime. And when you've got instructors and other things that happen to possibly in the foreseeable future, other students, you know, and being able to put something on like that, some students where they're having difficulty, you know, you've probably shown that, you know, in your life right now, you know, and even in the past, you know, to help others, because, you know, you've been there, you know what it's like to be in that situation. And, you know, hats off to you, Craige. You know, it's a phenomenal thing that you do, and it's great. And I've noticed as well, because I did a bit more homework with it, you got involved with well-being and mental health as well. Yes. You know, in regards to that, I think that's actually fantastic what you're doing. You know, how have you seen? I know that's not in the questions what I've got here, but I thought I might as well, as we're touching upon that subject now with the mental health and sort of awareness. Where did that manifest from? Where did that come from? Was that from your own personal experience?
My own experiences, yeah. So it's no secret. Anybody that sort of follows what I do, I'll talk quite openly about it. I do suffer with depression, and I have depressive episodes. And I'm currently in the NHS receiving counselling and assistance that way. But it is a constant struggle. And you know, one of the things I think, and you'll find this with a lot of people that tend to have quite ill mental health and have suffered with depression, we're all really good at helping other people with the problems that we ourselves suffer with. So I think it's sort of a blessing and a curse, really, because we have, to a degree, the answers to help other people and the ability to help other people, just not the ability to sort of mirror it onto ourselves. So at the very least, one of the things that I like to do through that is ensure that I can help others, you know, to either avoid being in the situations that I've found myself in, or at the very least give a very honest, sympathetic ear, you know, and a bit of company when somebody may need it.
Well, that's been great, because I think, you know, it's excuse me, it's that kind of situation where, you know, where you've come from a position of where you've been the sufferer, in a position of where you're trying to make sure your emotions there are also sort of projected to other people. What you've done is you haven't harbored it either. You've pushed that aside and you've accepted someone else's situation, and then been able to see if you can be able to rein that in them and see it through your eyes as well as theirs, you know, and being that selfless in that way. Because, you know, there's always going to be different opinions from other people, where I've noticed, where I've come across people where they'll say, well, you're not completely selfless. You're doing it because, you know, you're gaining some yourself, aren't you? I thought, well, to a degree, yes, you are being that way, but also I don't think you're I think what they're trying to say is that because you're doing something, it's because you want something out of it, not necessarily. I think it's the approach, because, you know, if you're approaching it from a different angle where someone's coming.
You'll have to excuse me, mate. Somebody's at the door and the dog's just gone mental. He's the world's worst dog. He's about this
bless
big,
him.
You know,
wow.
And he wouldn't hurt a fly.
That's all right. Well, if you're back on my last few episodes, Craig, you'll see Ziggy. And you know who Ziggy is, don't you? We all know who Ziggy is. And he's a big soppy dog himself. But he's not exactly small dog either, Ziggy.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky. I've got a dog with little man syndrome more than anything else.
Oh my goodness! Oh, I'll tell you what, Lucci is fun. You know, when I think we were like 3/4 way through the interview, and we had Ziggy come along, and they thought, "Oh look, your Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube famous Ziggy, look," and like all over him, and it was like, I think you could only see like a quarter of him, because obviously the team was big enough to fit.
Yeah, he's huge.
I'll tell you what. If Ziggy managed to fit on the screen, Lucci would not have been on the screen at all. Because Lucci was like, oh my goodness. Oh dear. Wow. Yeah. With the understanding of the sort of mental health awareness, I think it's great that you're doing. Did you come across that? Was it during your sort of time in the martial arts, or was that after? You know, like where you come into the martial arts and then you thought, oh, hang on a moment, there's an opening there where I can dive in there and help out others while I'm teaching, or was that after the teaching?
Probably shortly after. So I didn't really get heavily involved in sort of helping with mental health until we'd sort of established the community centre. Initially, myself and my partner, we were on a mental health first aid course when they started to sort of be rolled out. And that was quite an eye-opener, because the one in particular that we did was aimed towards youth mental health. You know, it covered a lot of subjects that were quite pertinent to me as a coach, because the majority of my students are children. children and teens. So I sort of got into it after that, because you then, when you've sort of got a bit more information, and you can, rather than just sort of feel your way around people and how they're thinking and feeling, when you've got a firm grasp and knowledge of the, what to look for and how to help, it sort of enhances your ability then. I mean, a lot of what I did, you mentioned sort of selflessness earlier. One of the things that I really got involved in it for was in a way to help myself. It was being able to help other people, sort of. Obviously, you get your own personal, comfort from knowing that you've done something good, but on top of that, it also gave me a little bit more purpose in what I was doing, and sort of firm knowledge that what I was doing was helping.
That's understandable, because I think, when people tend to feel if you're being completely selfless, I think there's a degree where you're being more helpful than it is selfless, because I think it's a two-way thing where, like you said, people don't realize when you're helping other people, you are actually helping yourself at the same time. We don't actually realize it, but like you said, you're actually learning something through having that sort of process where other people are actually gaining that knowledge and a little bit of experience from yourself. And then you're also sort of initiating the sort of help as well for them, of what you've noticed through, from our own perspective, because obviously sometimes people need that initial sort of push and a little bit of assistance and aid in their life, where we're looking from the outside looking in rather than the inside looking out, and that's what they need. They need fresh eyes, fresh ears, sort of compassion and some understanding, because a lot of time most people think you have to physically always have to do things. You don't. I think it's once you have something there set in place for people to feel that they can discuss things, it's more of someone that they can have someone listen to them, because most of the time people think they have to be listened to, and tolerated without just listening to them. You don't know, even you can split people's lives by even just listening itself, and nobody realizes that
it's a very
kind
simple act of kindness, and something like that. It is something so simple and so small. It can make a massive difference to somebody's day. You'll always see the moniker "Be kind." It really is that simple. I'd go a step further and just say, don't be an ass to people. It's not difficult. If you can't be good to people, don't be mean or horrible to them. Just trying to, at the very least, be a neutral party.
Well, this is it, because I think when you're in a position of like offering help as well, sometimes I've sort of got in a position where before I've tried to help a few people, but sometimes feel that we're helping. Sometimes it's the opposite, where at least you're at arm's reach and they know that you're there. So you're not like always in the foreground, but you're also in the background, but they don't always tend to think as if that you're hounding them. You're there if you're needed. So they're aware that you're not like being a hawk on them, but you're also, you're not being a hawk, you're like on them. Whereas they're in a position where you're like, oh, right, okay, I'm at arm's reach. Don't worry, I'm here. And that they appreciate that. I think sometimes that's what they need, even like the simplest things. The other thing is as well, I've noticed you have a great interest in films as well, behind the camera, behind the show, everybody. Mr. Craige Thompson, as well as a martial artist. Yes, it has some martial arts involvement in it. With dressing up, it's like he actually dressed up as a street fighter, one of the Street Fighter films. So who's that you usually go? Which one is it that you usually dress up as, Craig?
Well, I've done for Halloween. I've done Ryu. I did a Kuma one year as well. But yeah, I love Street Fighter. I've always loved Street Fighter anyway. In spite of not being brilliant at playing it, I'm better at Tekken than anything else. But yeah, Ryu tends to be my favoured one, you know.
Right, folks, give a few seconds. I'm going to surprise Craig. I don't think he's going to expect this. Hold on one moment.
I remember those. That's awesome, man. You know, my cousin had those exact same ones. Have you got the arena that they go in? The stage?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So one day, Craig, I'm going to bring a arena thing for you. See, folks, you didn't expect that one, did you? Even Craig didn't expect that.
You don't see those a lot anymore. You know, they're turning into collector's items, mate. I'd hold on to those until they've accrued more value.
That's what I'm going to do. Mrs. has got the Harry Potter ones.
Oh wow!
Yeah, shit. If you knew, Craig, goodness me, majority of the bedroom would be covered in Harry Potter stuff. That's why on my side there'll be all martial arts stuff and everything. If she had her way, it'd be like Harry Potter the whole room. I'd walk in, I'd be like, "Hey, where's my part of the room?" Right in the far corner.
Have their way, mate. Trust me.
It'd be like, yeah, 40 degrees that way. I'll be like, "Oh wow, look at that." Yeah, you get 40 degrees or 40 degrees of that amount of room, and all the rest of that is mine. I'll be like, "Okay." Oh my goodness, great. Oh, I thought that, you know, that's the first time I've ever shared that with anyone, that Street Fighter thing. So there you go, Craig. See, you're like one of many now. Oh,
that's nice, man.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you got any pets, but like you did mention that. Is that just the one dog there?
Yeah. So we've got the one dog here, Titch. We've got 2 cats and a snake.
Goodness. Wow. Yeah, my partner's sister, oh my goodness. She stayed over once and a menagerie. Seriously, she had African land snails, 2 of them, a cat. Now she's got 2 dogs where she's living. A few birds, probably about 3 or 4 of them. And some guinea pigs. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, only. And her partner was like, yeah, I bet. And a few other things. He can say, but I'm gonna repeat that live. It'd probably shatter the windows. it might actually go through the double glazing. Yeah. I was like, ooh, yeah. No, he said no. Joking apart, he said no. That's that's fine. He says any more than that, my goodness, he won't have any room. I think most of the pets took up most of the room there, and lucky to have any space on the bed. Oh dear. What was it like making the initial transition from being a student to an instructor?
That's an interesting one. In all honesty, it was initially probably an easy process, or it felt like an easy process. And I think for a lot of instructors at sort of a grassroots level, it always feels easy at first until the responsibilities start to mount up. So, I mean, from quite a young age, I was always encouraged to help anyway. So, you know, as you sort of gain seniority, as you work through your grades and whatever, and your time served in the club, you naturally take on the role of helping any newer people or anyone else around you. Sometimes you'll assist with a little bit of coaching for the kids anyway. So, you know, that wasn't too bad. When I eventually sort of took on the majority of the responsibilities, and it was, you know, all of a sudden on me, that's when it got a lot more difficult. And I mean, I think I'm still working that out, you know, years and years on down the line. I'm hoping that within the next decade or two, I might have a handle on it, but we'll see.
Wait. Oh, we got another fellow. Oh, it was Phil Moulton. Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's been watching our episodes here. It's great. Ooh. Phil Moulton was 2 episodes before this. Was a bodyguard to Pele, the football player, several years ago.
Oh, wow, that's badass, man.
Yeah, you can check him out on the last episode, last couple of episodes. Not Rob Jones, not the last one before you, but the one before that. He also was initially a bodyguard to Whitney Houston as well.
Way?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's what I thought. And then I thought, my goodness. So when I was asking all these questions, it's amazing. And even like yourself, because this is why the Phil Carew Show 2.0, you know, it's authentic. It's not scripted. I don't have to keep looking at my phone, you know, to go, what do I, you know, it's not one of those ones where I need to have like one of those things where you have on the side, you know, where nobody sees it, but, you know, on the television, they have something where it scrolls.
Oh, yeah, like a teleprompt.
That's it, teleprompter. So I'll be going, and then if I misread it wrong, I'd say, Phil, walk off the stage. No, that's my directions. And then you end up reading it wrong, and you think, oh, I self-confession here, I put my hand up to it. I did a little bit of acting many years ago on stage. I was a bit of a clown as well. And I thought it was on the script. I read out on the prompt bit, the plonker. I read out the bit of the directions. So when I remembered that, and somewhat they thought it was funny, so they added that to the actual script thing.
That's
so when I was actually
panto, that is, mate.
yeah. So when I was talking, it was actually panto as well. I was a character called the Sultan of Morocco in Dick Whittington, and I'll never forget it because you can just imagine how flamboyant my costume was. Because we were speaking of costumes, weren't we? And or as you would see, you know, like in Aladdin, the Sultan.
Yeah, it'd be very stereotypical, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't have the beard, but I had the flamboyant costume. I had like this Goldie looking sort of baggy trousers, like a chic kind of look would wear, and this back top, and this massive, great big hat thing that the Sultan would wear with the feather thing looking out. and my sleeves were, I think they were like rose goldy pink kind of color and gold. My Sultan hat was like goldy color with this feather. And my mum looked at me and she said, "Oh, you look rather nice." And my dad said, "No, you don't. He looks like a right plonker." And I was like, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks for your seal of approval." He goes, "That's all right, son. That means I love you." I'm like, "Really? Oh, thanks." I said, if that's your seal of approval and call it saying that I look like a complete plonker, that must be a good thing then." Oh, bless him. Yeah, no, I've always tend to find that you have a conversation that flows. Sometimes you don't realise, when you have these sort of questions that come flying. I'm not trying to be like a journalist. Like most of the people, when they come on, they come out with the usual type of questions. Like when I was spoke to Lucci, Guardo, I'd say going back about a month ago, a few weeks back, there was some questions that I threw at him. Sort of sometimes I'd throw a curveball, and it was quite fun. But like I said to sort of all the other guests I've spoken to, to sort of ask certain questions where they're a bit more plain, because then it gets a chance for the audience and listeners, as well as myself, to get to know you. And it's a lot more fun because I'm not the type of kind of host that wants to be like a paparazzi or one of those little journalists where I want to get some dish the dirt in, and this isn't the Joe Rogan experience, if you know what I mean. And this isn't
don't we, in an archery range.
Well, this is it. This is what I mean. Or like, we don't want to be like the Jake Paul. I'm going to come out with a prime drink and say, "You want some prime, Craig, before you have your initial do." Costs £12 just to drink. Don't worry. There's about 12 in the pack, and you get it for £18.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I was just saying that. Well, you never know. Who knows, Craig? We might be able to get there one day. Who knows? We might get some sponsorship out from both of them. What's to say that this podcast does really well in the foreseeable future? Oh, good evening, Daz. Good evening, Phil. And I don't know. Could be anything, isn't it? Some hoodies, have our own apparel.
Maybe we get scouted by Nike. That'd be good. Could do with some shoes.
Capcom. Get sponsored by Capcom. You know where this is heading, don't you?
They could front the DLC for all the games that they're selling now. That's a good few £100 per game, isn't it? So,
actually, now you've touched upon that sort of question that I'll ask next. That follows on. This is great. See, now we're flowing even more. It leads on to the next question: how much of a game are you?
Besides martial arts, that's pretty much all I do with my time. So yeah, quite a lot.
Wow. Well, my partner's actually waiting for the new Harry Potter game to come out. Legacies.
All right.
Yeah. She's a bit disappointed because I was supposed to actually get it for her.
Looks like I've lost you, mate. We were doing so well, mate. Oh, I think we've lost. Oh, we've lost him temporarily. Let's have a look. We will pop the camera off and wait till he pops back on, I think.
Hey! And we're
Welcome back, mate.
woo! Oh my goodness! What are
Small
you?
technical difficulty, mate.
What are you doing, Wi-Fi, to us? What are you doing? What have we done to you? Oh,
Wired connection, mate, every time if you can.
oh. Right. If you can understand me, folks, the viewers and listeners out there, and even Craig, I'm going to try my best to see if I can imitate the character from the 1980s onwards, Mr. Officer Jones. You want to fight? Fight me. Oh, no. Woo! Oh my goodness! It's such a He's such a great character. Do you actually realise that he can actually play? He only needs to get a microphone and make noises of Jimi Hendrix. He can actually do Jimi Hendrix as if he's got a guitar playing a tune.
Yeah, Police Academy, weren't it?
Yeah, he can act. Yeah, he actually did it on a show as well. He says, "Give me the microphone," and he actually did it live there and then. I was like, "Wow!" And my partner was like, "Is he actually really doing that?" I said, "Yeah, watch."
Yeah, very unique talent.
But I can do the machine gun, but I can't do the. Oh wow, it's amazing when he goes. It sounds like a sort of stray cat being strangled at the moment, but
You said it, mate.
It's like, there you go. But I love the machine gun one though. With it, my son loves it. Like he said to me, "Oh, Dad, that's one of my that." Now I'm mentioning films. What are your top 5 past films and top 5 current films? So you got a choice there. Yeah.
Okay, what do we consider past films? Are we talking noughties backwards, or are we going even further back than that?
As far as you want to go.
Okay.
Top 5 oldies. Top 5 oldies. Top 5 current to newbies.
So the top of my oldies, and I'm only considering it an oldie because it was 1999, is The Matrix. So that for me, that sits right at the top. And then after that, you're going to go further back then. So probably massive fan of Kickboxer back in the day. That was a good one. Missing in Action 3.
Ooh.
Enter the Dragon and Police Story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, those old school ones, they're actually on my top of the list, actually. Meaning, actually, now we're on that topic of films. folks, I'm just sort of going to ask sort of officially to Craige that possibly this was the first and it won't be the last. It'll be on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. Well, I'm going to ask Craige officially now, would it be possible if I could get yourself and possibly even somebody else, or even just yourself, I don't mind to start off with, where we can draw in different topics of not just martial arts, but the film parts where people make certain mistakes, because I've seen this quite a lot, where people are mentioning how unrealistic and realistic certain people use certain things in the films, because I think even the directors and certain actors and stunt sort of doubles or stunt people, they can either be too quick for the camera, or they're not just being too quick. They're also making certain movements where they look intricate, tiny movements where they'll make it look so flashy that even in reality, it may not be able to be pulled off, but it looks good.
Yeah, well, I mean, with film, I had to learn to suspend my own disbelief so that I could enjoy film. Because I think you sort of reach a point, if you, particularly with the martial arts that I practice, the karate that I do, and the way that I train, it's geared towards, dealing with non-consensual violence and everything that comes with that. It's a huge subject. But to enjoy a film, you've got to take all that out of your head for that couple of hours, and say to yourself, well, I'm just going to enjoy watching John Wick kill these dudes with a pencil and judo roll one guy around and almost shoot his own foot off. He's using the handle really practically right next to his crotch. You see, you sort of have to learn to suspend your disbelief to really enjoy the films, the
one of the best, funniest films I've seen, and obviously I have to watch it before my son watches it. But there's certain things where I think there might be a scene where it's come in, and there was a particular one where there was a Jackie Chan film, really old school. And it had Benny the Jet Keates in it.
When a name just won't come to you.
Is it Meals on Wheels? Is it that one? Meals on Wheels?
It might be. You know what? I'm gonna use the ancient art of Google food just to put my mind at ease.
I think it is. I think it's Meals.
Let's have a look. Jackie Chan, Benny Urquidez. It'll come to me.
Meals up.
I'm gonna get there, mate. When my Wi-Fi works on me, you know what? I hate phones. Yeah, Wheels on Meals, 1984.
Wheels on, that's it. Wheels on Meals, that's it. It's the other way around. It's Wheels on Meals. Yeah, 84. Yeah. My goodness.
They have that really rapid exchange on that though, don't they? The choreography for that was so tight. The legwork was phenomenal. And I mean, you're talking a time as well when you look at those films from the 80s, particularly when you're looking at the likes of Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung and people like that. Those guys were taking hits in those films. It's very common, and it still happens today in particularly your Asian cinema. The directors are encouraging the stuntmen to take whack, a good whack from the actor that's doing what they've got to do. So yeah, love that sort of stuff.
Armor of God was awesome. Daz Sirat said, yeah. No, what actually happened to him? I was watching a little bit of, well, I think it was like a mini documentary. But apparently, poor Jackie, the camera guy, just watched him as he jumped from the wall onto the tree. He has to jump onto the tree, doesn't he? You know, when he does his acrobatic sort of stuff. Yeah, she jumped off his flipping neck. He was like over 20 foot high, well over, lands on the tree awkwardly, hits his head, like got severe concussion. And the camera guy was like, instead of helping him up, he just like ran away, scared apparently. And Jackie Chan was like, "Oh, come and help me!" And like, yeah, I could be like, he could be dying there. And the cameraman just like ran away because he was scared. And I thought, wow. And that was when he sustained sort of part of his injury, and then he still does these things. But I think obviously coming of age, he does a lot of other things, but he doesn't do as much as dangerous sort of kind of stunt work as he did several years ago. Because I've tend to find that the ones that he did several years, my goodness, because of the kind of stunts he did, no insurance company in the world would actually insure him because they were that dangerous.
Oh yeah, I mean, a very unique talent of his time. You wouldn't get anyone doing what he was doing now.
No, not many.
Well, you might not know, but he's actually well known for his singing in China. He's got like a bunch of albums out and stuff like that. You know, he's made quite a small fortune just from singing and operatics.
He's got his own cinemas.
Yeah.
His own cinemas is, oh my goodness. Oh my God. I'm just going to do a quick shout out for a guy in security that does security, and his name's called Chris Lubb. And he mentioned to me that because he's a martial arts fan himself, he actually said to me that apparently Chris Tucker is his co-star in Rush Hour, I think, went to Hong Kong once, and he was staying in this lavish, luxurious looking, I don't know how many stars, it was pretty high, and it wasn't just your 4 to 5 star, it was, I think, probably even further than that. It was like really lavish, high up there, kind of like Hilton, the Ritz, kind of there, right up there. And I think Chris Tucker said the funniest thing. He said it was so ironic that he happened to be, he didn't know the irony of it. Jackie Chan was smiling because Chris Tucker said, "Oh wow, I'm gonna have to stay in one of these. This is lovely." He said it is sort of typical Chris Tucker thing style, you know, as he does. And Jackie Chan said, "Really? Fantastic. You really want to stay here? Brilliant. It's my hotel." And he's like, "What?" He actually owned the hotel. Like probably like a whole load of them because the money that he has from all the films that he did, not just in Hong Kong and China, but in the States, in America, because obviously the box office, the amount of substantial money in dollars, if you exchange that in Hong Kong dollars, freaking heck, it's like, that's just like, wow. You couldn't even fathom how much that is. And he just thought, right, I'm going to buy a hotel. So he's gone from hotel and then sort of moved on from there. And now he's got his own cinema named after him and merchandise.
He's just played a real life game of Monopoly, hasn't he?
Why don't you just get a Monopoly board, call it Jackie Chan franchise? Oh my God. Oh, wow. That's amazing, Craig. I'm going to have to do that one day. I'll just go in, right, okay. Oh, yeah. See how many Jackie Chan cinemas there are where we can go to when you go to Hong Kong, right? There'll be like the amount of basketball courts that we have in the Philippines. Like you have football pitches and football goals everywhere, you know. So wherever you go, we'll be like, yep, that's like 5 cinemas of Jackie Chan we've just drove past or walked past. That's on the right side, bearing in mind. Let's look on the left. Oh, look, yeah, there's another 10 over there.
Some hotels, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we could do is get a dice, one of that, and get inside the dice, Craig. One of those ones where you can sort of roll. One of those inflatable ones that you can sort of run in. See what we land on, and create our own Jackie Chan Monopoly, couldn't we? Oh my God, he's a legend. Oh my God. And speaking of another legend, Jet Li, he wasn't well apparently, and he not long turned 60.
Yeah, he has. You know what, Jet Li was particularly sort of the 2000 to 2006 sort of time. He had his time in the American and UK scene, didn't he? Then, so we had a lot of really good exposure for Jet Li over here at that time, which was nice because I'd watched a lot of his older films, but yeah, leading up to, I think my favorite for Jet Li would be Fearless, and I know that caused a bit of controversy actually for the filmmakers of that film, because the family of Kuo Yang Jia weren't very happy with how he was portrayed in the film, but I thought it was a masterpiece, and the choreography was some of the best I'd ever seen.
It's brilliant, because even the way it's like on different sort of parts of the spectrum with Jet Li and Jackie Chan, they're both on the same level, but in different branches of how they do things. Where the comedy stuff and the sort of action comedy, or maybe some sort of mainly action, but like a lot of martial arts involved. And with the Jet Li, I think when you mention that with like Fearless and all the other things, like Once Upon a Time in China as well.
Yeah, Sayuk.
Oh, wow. The triple kick.
Jet Li was very focused on that wuxia cinema, so you tend to find a lot of the very old Asian looking stuff, the operatic cinema, the wire work that's involved in some of those films. Phenomenal stuff. And he's actually one of few people that's had really successful foreign dubbed box office stuff. So what was it? Hero was quite a big one. That was massive over here, and that was either entirely dubbed or subbed, depending on which cinema you went to.
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, and Daz Siraj, Jet Li has the same health problems. Oh, bless him, both of you. Yeah, but you're both doing really well, considering. Daz Siraj is a fellow martial artist as well. You did it again. What are you doing to us, Wi-Fi? Hi, everyone. Don't worry, folks. Rest assured, at the moment, we're having some technical challenges here. I'm not sure why, but please rest assured we'll be back as soon as we get things on the go again. Don't worry, folks. We'll sort something out in a moment. Appears to be that Craige Thompson has got a technical fault in his household Wi-Fi. Perhaps another time, Daz. I could do a bit of crooning for you. Be a crooner. Hey. Or I could do banana split. Yeah, the banana splits. La 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 la. I do that. Ah, dear. Hey,
We're back.
yay!
Difficulties for years, man. This is insane.
But you know what it is the popularity of the show, the influx of your newfound interests as well as gaming. I've got a good feeling that you're going to become a more of a regular slot on the show. You know, it's not just about martial arts. You're going to have gaming, you know, loads of other stuff, films.
Yeah.
See, there's loads of things to throw out there. So Craige Thompson isn't just a martial artist. There's other things. This is his best and probably one of the last that we'll see of him on the Phil Carew Show 2.0.
Cool.
we're having lots of fun here, as you may see. Apart from the technical side of things, where it's trying to challenge us. Oh my goodness!
I'm just going to blame Virgin Media because they all they do is give me problems.
Oh dear. Well, what you might need is why don't we have some EE of Kevin Bacon, you know, and do a bit of Footloose for us. Prance around the Wi-Fi for us.
The last thing anyone needs to see is me prancing around, mate.
What type of music do you listen to, Craig?
A bit of everything, to be honest with you. So for me, my playlist is quite eclectic. So 1 minute I may well be listening to some sort of like new metal from the noughties, and then the next minute it'll be sea shanties.
Wow.
It just varies.
Oh, folks, this just reminded me of something. Was it yourself, or was it Lucci, or was it James? I'm trying to remember now. But was it something to do like Viking?
Oh yeah, I trained with the Viking group years ago. Yeah, and the
Wow!
Harakiri. So they were an Eastern Rules reenactment group. So they're quite a heavy contact group that reenact, Viking traditions, and in particular the fighting. It was really fun. You take some good knocks and stuff with it. Unfortunately for me, at the time I was sort of doing it, I couldn't maintain. I couldn't maintain doing it purely because the cost was ridiculous. Because once it got to a point where I had to sort of start building my own kit up, you're talking hundreds and then thousands of pounds eventually to get fully kitted out, and it was. I was doing it at the wrong time, but I had some fantastic experiences, and I've got nothing but love for the guys that I was doing it with, and that are still doing it now. They're now one of the largest groups in Europe. They joined up with a large group called the Red Wing. Was it the Red Wing Boleslava or something like that? I can't fully remember, and. They travel abroad, I think usually once or twice a year, take part in these massive scaled battles where you've got literally hundreds of blokes kitted out in full traditional garb and armour, and they just clobber the snot out of each other for a few days, fight during the daytime and drink and feast in the evening. It's pretty awesome, to be fair.
It's like a real reenactment of a real Viking. Wow,
they really are. Some of the guys in there are phenomenal, and I mean the level of care and attention they give to their individual character, their kit is amazing. These guys will research heavily into to creating as much of an authentic sort of persona, I suppose, is the best way to put it, as possible. And I mean, when you're in those lines fighting, it's anything but gentle. You're wearing quite thick, heavy gauge steel just so as you don't get your head caved in by a Danax. They really do give you a good smack. And anyone will tell you, anyone that's ever done it, you're fairly well covered. You've normally got like a thick cloth and cotton covering anyway. Then you'll be wearing your helmet and that on top. And if somebody decides they're going to drop a Danax over the top of your shield wall on your head, it will hurt. Your ears are ringing, and and all manner. You do tend to find that people will lose teeth and get bruised up. It's quite a regular occurrence getting battered while you're there. Proper fun though.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I can just imagine that you actually being a Viking. Freaking heck! Wow.
You're not the first person to say that.
Wow, that'd be amazing. Freaking heck! I'm just gonna imagine you now in a reenactment. All you need now is one of those big, really, really big. Like they have for Oktoberfest. Oh, freaking heck!
Yeah,
it's like out there. Yeah, the drinking horn. Freaking heck! That is not like any ordinary glass. That is like freaking heck. You can have probably about 4 or 5 pints in that.
Yeah, you get some that are huge. They're expensive as well, but they are really cool.
The first time I saw one of them, hand on heart, out no fault of my own personal ignorance here. The first time I saw one of them, I knew what it was, but it was like, even the thought of it, I thought it took a while for me to for it to sink in, because I looked at it and I thought, no, it can't be, because you go by looks, not of what you think it is. When I first saw it, I thought, no, it can't be. I thought, no, that looks normal to them, but to us, that would be in comparison to a picture. What a picture would be to us, to them, that's like, well, just one. That'd take me ages. We'd probably be going to the loo probably about several times even before we finish it. That's how big it is, isn't it?
It's one of those things, mate. You know, they always say every civilization that's ever existed on Earth has had three things in common, right? Number one, every advanced civilization has its own type of knife, its own form of bread, and its own form of fermentation. So over the years, humanity, all civilizations have had the same three things in common. That's knives, bread, and drinking.
Exactly, but to us, they've gone from that big and we've gone to this small. Have you noticed, like, over the years? Well, what did you? Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was mentioning this before. I think on a few episodes, and the phones, even with technology. I was saying this to my son that many years ago, when the first phones came out, it was like abroad, and then it came here. The phones, oh my goodness, how? Example, the phone was like this, that size.
Yeah, those 80s mobile things that gave everyone cancer.
Yeah. Well, this is it. It was like, hello? Hello? How much a bigger phone do you need? It was freaking huge. And they walked around with it like as you could hardly see your face in it. It's like they were carrying it around like that. On it. It's massive. And then over time, he got to that size. Yeah, I know it's a remote, but it was like that. It went as thin as that. So look at how it is. It's everything's got smaller. Isn't it? It's strange, isn't it? How everything's compact and then everything's burst again, then it's got bigger. Now, speaking of sort of past and present, who would you love to sort of speak to if you had the choice? So, and even possibly even the present time, you know, who would you love to speak to, you know, and what you'd like to talk to them about? You know, it doesn't have to be martial arts, it can be anything, any topic that you're talking about. Who would you love to speak to? You know, it could be historical figure, could be a famous or public figure, or it could even be a family member, past, present. And what would you talk to them about?
That's an interesting one, to be honest. I think for me, I'll pick two. So, in terms of somebody that's not related to me, not a family member, I'd pick Chuck Norris because I grew up watching his films as a kid. I watched a lot of very inappropriate films. I'll be honest. When I was a kid, I used to visit my nan and granddad's house every weekend, and my granddad had his own. He had a big cabinet upstairs in their spare bedroom, and it was full of videos, and most of them were old Chuck Norris films, Bruce Lee films, and things like that. And he just let me go and pick films, and then I'd sort of spend the weekend at home watching them, and then just change them, you know, every so often. But more often than not, they weren't appropriate for like an 8 or 9 year old at all. I think I watched Missing in Action 3 when I was about 8, you know, and some of the things that happen in that, you know, no 8-year-old should be watching that kind of stuff. But you know, it cemented Chuck Norris as a real hero for me. In spite of what a lot of people think of him and that, I love his films. You know, ranging from he's very martial arts centric to his war centric films. I've loved his entire career, so I'd love to be able to just sort of speak and chat with him. And then I think a bit more personally than that, if I had the chance again, just for a single conversation, I'd want to be able to speak to my granddad again. He really looked out for me a lot when I was a kid, and you know, he sort of passed away before I had the chance to have sort of grown into the man I am now. I was still sort of finding my place at the time, so I never really got to show off the man I'd become to him, you know, and sort of seek his approval. I suppose is the best way to put it.
Oh, that's great, actually, because, you know, most of the time, you know, I admit, you know, I'd probably would have chosen a family member as well, and one of the sort of figures I'd love to have myself is to not just Bruce Lee, but it would be I think the name now. Oh, hang on a moment. Nicholas Tesla. I'd love to hear. Yeah. What
he was genuinely nuts or really a genius or somewhere in the middle, because there's not much actual information out there about him. There's stories and hearsay and things that he could have built or did build and things like that. So it'd be nice to get the facts, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is it. A lot of stuff as well. Only then, when he passed away, many years afterwards, there was a lot of things that he patented that, you know, other people would sort of homed in on and added to what he did, which is fair enough. But at the same time, I don't think Tesla enough recognition what he had actually contributed towards the work that has produced what it is today, you know, like with the light and generating electric, you know, and it was down to, you know, doing everything that he found in the world of science wasn't recognized, you know, and give recognition that he needed then, because it was, I think, around those times when you had science, you know, bringing in science, a lot of the time people would, if you was to go back even further with some things with science, most people, you know, those days would think you're completely nuts, because when you produce something that nobody quite understands, because they're probably like the pioneers of it and nobody quite understood it. Even same with like martial arts, you know, I love my history of martial arts, going back as far as you can go, you know, like with the Philippine martial arts, you know, when they're going back with Screamadors and Arnistadors, where the Javans were the original sort of came onto the island that taught the Filipinos how to use weaponry and the sort of close quarters combat, you know, where they actually had things with the Spaniards that the Philippines and made it what it is. But, you know, in other sort of invaders that invaded the Philippines as well. But also realised that within martial arts over years, what would you say your insight in the martial arts has changed? You know, its evolution of martial arts, because I know there's a lot of old school and new school grassroots. Would you say some filming has some hidden truth in how other people would see karate these, like Cobra Kai, for example?
I think Cobra Kai was fantastic for sort of a revival of interest in karate as a whole. I mean, the actual karate shown on the show is terrible for the most part. But yeah, I think they're sort of like they're sort of tidbits and stuff like that. Obviously, we where history and media are concerned in martial arts, there's, you know, the whole point of media is to entertain. So when you're looking at film and TV and stuff like that, everything is embellished or changed and altered to create usually a more positive perception of something, but mainly a more entertaining and engaging perception. And I think one of the things that where karate in particular is concerned now, the more damaging media for karate isn't from TV shows and things like Cobra Kai. It's actually come from other people who have cemented themselves in fairly important positions within organizations and stuff like that. Karate, and not just exclusive to karate, but because it's my experience, it's quite a politically charged minefield of organizations worldwide at the moment. And you tend to find you have so many people pulling in different directions, usually due to their own personal interests and stuff like that. And to actually draw a similarity, you have this kind of thing going on in like Cobra Kai. So when you see the series start back up, you've got Johnny Lawrence, who is effectively almost like a disgraced competitor, who decides to attempt to reinvent himself with something he was passionate about, only to be met with Daniel LaRusso and his success in life, and that sort of contrast there. And then you've effectively got two guys who are doing the same thing, really, but pulling in different directions. And because they're pulling in different directions, they end up butting heads due to a past that's actually not directly their fault, their responsibility to worry about, instead of moving forward. And it's quite an interesting contrast to draw with organizations and the way they work today, because, ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're doing karate, whether you're doing harness, eskrima, anything like that. We're all trying to learn and develop skill sets, and whether it's to keep fit, to keep us safe, to just learn something new, do something interesting. We're all doing these things for different reasons, but that doesn't mean we have to be pulling in different directions, because it's all pure at its source. It's just a shame there's not more people willing to all jump on board and pull in the same direction. Everybody seems to assume out for something these days, and half the time we just want to get on and have a bit of fun learning something new, and hopefully feeling a bit safer from the way we train.
Well, it's good that you mentioned that, because there's been a lot of times where it's not just karate. There's so many different things now that have changed, that really, when I did a bit more digging with the Philippine martial arts, goodness me, I didn't realize how brutal it was back in the day. Even with the 60s, 70s, going back, like you mentioned, grassroots with martial arts, karate, any form of martial arts that wears a gi, and even kickboxing, it was no longer, at the time back then, it wasn't semi-contact or sort of fully sort of guarded with any sort of helmet or shield or anything like that, or padding. It was no holds barred, and you'd be lucky to you might even find a gum shield at the time. You'd hear people actually. I think it was, as far as I'm aware, I can remember, it was on my last few episodes, like I mentioned to you previously, on the actual part of the show, early part of the show. If you only just tuned in, we were speaking in regards of who was on the show previously. It was a couple of shows before I had Craige Thompson on. Everybody, just to let the viewers and the listeners know, I had Philip Moulton, who is also karate and martial arts background, Craig. The bodyguards for Whitney Houston and Pele. And I think he was not forgetting Shane Ward from the X Factor, and he mentioned to me, and even Wayne Hunt, Guru Wayne Hunt, well, from the sort of Philippine martial arts discipline, mentioned to me, because back in the day, it wasn't as it was, in the sense of where you had a gum shield, you could wear a helmet, and it wasn't like in Best of Best where you could wear a helmet, gum shield, and you're all fully padded and everything like that. It was all no holds barred. You'd be lucky to out where you didn't have any cut or broken nose or whatever, and they had to sign an actual sort of I think it was more like a health and safety policy thing where you had to. It was more of a essential thing where it said, right, we are no longer responsible for any such sort of injury sustained or anything like that, or death during process of participating at venue or establishment, and then they had to sign it. So if some worst case scenario, broken nose, bonk, black eye, split lip, that was it. It wasn't like these days, I need to put a gum shield on just in case my teeth get knocked out.
Yeah,
in those days,
it was like waivers like that have been around for a while. The Chinese, when you look at places like Foshan, so you had all the kung fu schools fighting, and they'd fight in the Leyte, which was that big round ring elevated a meter or two off the ground. Formalized matches between people and schools, then they'd sign death waivers for those. I mean, you're going back quite far with that kind of thing, but that's been around for a while. And I mean, you can go back even further if you go to, say, Greek pancration. So I think the oldest recorded form of any sort of formalized martial arts wear is actually some straps of leather, which would form a kestus, like a very loose wrapped leather glove. And it wasn't a glove; it was just strips of leather that would have been bound around the knuckles, so they could just mash each other up like when they were fighting.
that sounds like kumite, a kumite in there on what was it? Kickboxer and sport. Oh my goodness!
Bloodsport,
yeah. Or now is shards of glass attached to the
that's that
bandages.
Rambo 2, ain't it? That you got to put it in the stuff and that,
yeah. oh my goodness! I wouldn't want to be that guy. Oh yeah, that's Stirat said. It was full contact 30 years ago, and a normal session was fat lip, nosebleed, and broken bones. Oh, flipping heck. Woo! Wow. That was like a live show of Benny the Jet Key Tears and Jackie Chan again. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, health and safety reasons. Well, they had a lot of red tape. Now, isn't it? You have to go through certain procedures and health and safety, even licensing. What is it like, as being sort of an instructor? What's this sort of standard thing now? Because I know that I remember back in the day. Oh my goodness, the licensing in there. I remember every time we have a license, I always had to have my Budo pass. I remember that Budo pass. Back in the day, I'm going to have to show you one day. Oh, my goodness. I think mine's got cobwebs on it, Craig. That's how old I've got. But I'll have to just go on my Budo pass. It's got cobwebs on it somewhere. My son will say, Dad, you're not gone that far yet. I said, well, give me another 10 years. I will be.
No, it's not too bad today, to be fair. I mean, for me, I'm quite fortunate in that insurance isn't that hard. Because I'm not governed by a large scale organisation. Insurance is actually fairly easy to get sorted. So I don't have to pay a fortune in ludicrous fees, and I'm able to self-manage. So for myself personally, it's actually quite easy going. But yeah, I think the health and safety, it's very hit and miss. Like there's so many arguments for and against, and where martial arts is concerned, you're always doing an inherently dangerous activity. So I believe anybody, regardless of age or experience, should be prepared to take some knocks when it comes to doing any form of martial arts training. But with that said, there are instances where, you should take reasonable precautions to keep people safe. I obviously coach a lot of kids. Would I expect the kids that I coach to end up getting blooded noses and split lips on a regular basis? It may happen as a one-off, but my job as an instructor is to take every precaution to reasonably ensure that they're safe. Because before the training is important, my students' safety is, their long-term health, and not just their physical health, their mental health as well. It doesn't benefit anybody to get their head smashed in a dojo. That you're not there to just beat people up. Yeah, you should take knocks, and if you're practicing anything where realistic violence is involved, and the research and development of the skills to deal with that are involved, you should have a sort of process where you can escalate your levels of pressure testing to ensure that it works. And at some point you are going to walk that line where there are risks of broken bones and heavy bruising and trauma, but it's not the goal of the training. It's a potential risk. So yeah, it's one of those things. Like for me, I've got an entire book of risk assessments just on my equipment alone, and I have to check that and ensure that it's safe on a regular basis. And that's before I even look at the activity itself. So then you have to risk assess the activity. I have a rough plan or a rough theme of what I do lesson to lesson. So I have to ensure that the content I'm putting out is reasonably safe to do, and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of work. A lot of people never realise what their instructors do behind the scenes, and it's a thankless job because you're not getting paid for the amount of hours that you will put in at home, writing out these risk assessments, ensuring that you've got the relevant training and stuff in place to keep everyone safe, and just to keep yourself covered. Because unfortunately, we now live in a time of liability, legal liability, and there are some people out there that look for the opportunity to exploit somebody that isn't legally prepared. So you've got to defend yourself on all fronts, which it's an unfortunate reality to experience, but it's a reality nonetheless.
Oh, you mentioned that actually. There was a strange footage I was looking on, and I just stumbled across it. It was really weird. You mentioning that, they're fortunately in the type of climate we're in, when it comes to sort of finding any reason to be able to be in a sort of kind of a sue culture, where they can find a loophole or find a way of noticing something, and they'll go, "Oh, that doesn't seem right. Is that supposed to happen?" And there was a strange footage. I thought nothing to do with martial arts, but it was really weird how the lady had the nerve to actually turn around and say to this gentleman who had a dog. Right now, we're mentioning about pets and dogs. Now, there was this dog, and it was nowhere near the type of breed that she said it was. And she said, "Oh, look at that big pit bull." It wasn't even a pit bull. It was nowhere near the size of a pit bull. Pit bull was like this usually like huge dog and like really muscular looking thing. But this dog was the most cute, hairy looking kind of dog that you could ever see. It was so friendly and approachable. And this lady went, it's biting me, biting my, look, she fell over. And and this man's actually videoing it, and she still had the nerve to say that the dog actually, when the dog was actually licking her, you could see the dog actually licking her. And then she had the nerve to say to the man, "Oh, get that bulldog away." And the other owner that just walked across, he said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "No, why are you doing that?" And the owner, this isn't the owner from the actual that's licking her. This is another owner that walked across and said, "No, that is not a pit bull, and he's not attacking you." And she said, "Oh, it's attacking me. Oh, yeah." And I thought, well, she's screaming out as if the dog's attacking her. And I can see a similar kind of principle as you were saying, even though it's a dog, some people now, I don't know what it is in their mind these days, that if they can try and get something out of someone, for any particular reason, to get any money out of them, for whatever reason, they thought, do you know what? I can see them from somewhere, but if they're not aware of it, I'll try and catch them off guard. But what they don't realize is because we're doing the right thing, and we're always going by the right thing, which can't go wrong, out of morality, 110% of the time, most people will say to them, "What the heck are you on about? Why are you doing this?" And then by the end of it, when it comes to legal matters, they're the ones that will probably have to end up paying us because of, the false, the flaw in it. It's just so stupid. Even the judge will probably turn around and say, "You know what? I know exactly what you're doing. If you're carrying the way what you're doing, you're going to end up paying the other person that you're the one trying to sue if you're not careful."
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, unfortunately, it's commonplace. I mean, another subject that sort of parallels that is where the law's concerned. In martial arts, we obviously have to cover ourselves where insurance and things like that concerned. But a very big thing these days that I believe is overlooked in a lot of instances is actually looking at the legalities behind if anyone ever has to use the skills and knowledge that they've learned in order to protect themselves. There's so many grey areas and things now. And I mean, everybody carries a portable camera with them all the time. We live in this age of everything's on film, everything's being recorded, everything's liable. It's madness. And unfortunately, it does also mean that a lot of people will try and get away with just being generally crap people. So, we have a generation of people now that, because they feel safe behind a camera, behind a screen, they're actually not willing to take responsibility for the words that come out of their mouth and the actions that they do to other people. It's quite a sad thing to see, and it's starting to leak into martial arts because there's so much now where you see this sort of backbiting and tittle tattling that's happening online a lot. I mean, some people can exploit that. They can exploit other people's immorality and stupidity, really, to sort of benefit themselves. I've seen one or two people that have managed to wave some sort of magic wand on TikTok, and they can take any negative comments and stuff like that, and it just boosts their numbers, and I think that's brilliant because it turns these trolls into a useful resource, but we do live in strange times where communication, particularly online, is
Oh, no, that's very true. We have to be very careful with sort of things now. How, I encountered myself, a lot of people probably noticed this on there, where I did put up a post not long ago. This is one of my old phones that I've had to use because my other phone is like part of my notes, as you can see here. I had a phone. It was I think it was like 21, 22. It might have been 1 actually. 2021. It was a Samsung S21. That's what I can remember. And I was at Bidsborough, Bidsborough Road, Bidsborough Street, actually, yeah, on there, up at the back of the Euston Flyer in London. And this was, like, I think, just right at the back of the pub. And, you know, you have the bollards where they have a lot of, what do they call it? Scooters they have now. Yeah. You know, when because usually they've got electric scooters now. I was outside right there.
Lost you a little bit here, mate.
I could get Craige likes us. Right, all the Virgin media bring it back.
Just about. I've got you very choppy on my screen, mate. I do apologise.
Oh, when you go back on the replay, you're laughing a lot, Craige. Say you're a casual for all right, Craige. Can you hear me?
Still, I can hear you just about, mate. It's dipping in and out.
Okay, are you a smart casual guy or a smart formal guy?
Oh, neither. I am not smart in the slightest, mate. I wear pretty much this all the time.
Wow.
I'm normally wearing a vest and very, very loose trousers, and I have done since I've sort of been in my teens.
Wow.
I can pull off a suit though, according to my missus. Now I'm sure that there are a couple of pictures of me wearing a suit actually for like anniversaries and things like that. But yeah, on the whole, I tend to dress comfortable. As you can tell, I'm not the smallest bloke in the world, so trying to find casual clothes that fit me is difficult anyway. You know, so yeah, I tend to just dress comfortable most of the time.
God, do you know what I really feel for guys like yourself? Like for my one of my old friend's dads, because I've noticed you've got broad shoulders, right?
Yep.
Now my old friend's dad was ex-military. And even like yourself, you know, genetically, you're built like a tank. Like one of my friends, we used to call him Tank, right? Because he was just like yourself. He was a big guy. His shoulders, I was like, oh my goodness. I thought, wow, he is built like a tank, mate. And I could not believe my friend's dad. I didn't know this, no fault of his own. We bought him this top. It was like one of these like long sleeve, really nice sort of casual wear. Not sporty, but you know, it's like it looks quite smart for like, you know, like you would wear like the old school rugby tops.
Yeah.
You know, like you would have. Yeah, it was like that, but it was from men's clothing range. So I looked at it, I thought, oh, that looks quite nice. I'll get that. My mate and I, we chose it for his dad. So we bought it for him. And I thought, oh no, don't tell me. Because it's got big, broad shoulders. He put it on. I was like, no, what? I was like, no way. We did not just see that. And he laughed. He said, oh, no, I'll be all right. I'll just pull the sleeves off. he pulled the sleeves off. I thought, oh, wow. I couldn't believe it. He said, I'll just take the sleeve off. And the other one, it'll look all right for me. So I thought, all right, fair enough. I couldn't believe it. It's like, because obviously if you're naturally that big on the shoulders, I think we got him, it was like an extra large or extra large. I thought any bigger than that, freaking heck, you'd have to like have a customized top. You know, like they do for suits, you know, like tailor-made clothing, just to make
that's
sure.
Why if you ever see my gis, I'll take the sleeves off them. I tend to wear sleeveless gis purely because I can't move well in one that's got sleeves.
So basically, what you're saying is you're like the real life Ryu or Ken Street Fighter, where like over time. No, it's not being worn and torn just because of like you know, down to like being worn out. It's more of because it doesn't.
Yeah, it's just a case of being. I am through most of me sort of me growth in martial arts. You know, I've always used the one shop to buy all my gear from, and like been using them ever since I was a student, all the way up to being an instructor. So they've supplied everything like, and I won't shop anywhere else because I know the quality of what they supply is good. The problem that I have with the shop I use is the cut for their gis are for guys that are much slimmer and sort of less wide than I am. So because most retailers, most sort of manufacturers for martial arts suits, they manufacture based on height. So I'm just a half inch shy of 6 foot, which is a 180 or a size 5 gi. But if you find a normal size 5 gi, I honestly look like somebody's tried to squash a marshmallow, you know, like a rubber band around a marshmallow. They just don't fit. You know, I'm sort of like this, and because they're just tiny around me, and it's a universal cut because I think they have like giant sort of stacks of canvas material, and they just uniformly cut to size. So unless you get like a tailor-made one, you're really going to struggle. So yeah, most of the gis that I get now, I tend to have the sleeves taken off, and I've been quite fortunate that a couple of the gis that I'm currently using and wearing that haven't fallen apart yet. One of my students, she was a wizard with her tailoring, so she was able to sort of tidy the seams up and ensure that the whole thing didn't fall apart.
Oh, bless you.
So I've got those. I've got a couple of decent fitting ones at the moment, but I tend to steer clear of anything with sleeves on because particularly where it comes to practicality, I very rarely wear anything with sleeves unless it's winter and I'm in a coat.
Freaking heck. Oh, wow.
Sun's out, guns out all year round, mate.
Get in there. Can you do accents?
Yep.
Can you really?
But I'm not going to.
Which ones can you do?
My Scottish one ain't too bad. Welsh pretty good because I've got quite a lot of Welsh family. So, yeah.
Hey, boyo!
Not too bad, yeah. Russian, purely from spending too much time playing Counter-Strike. I'm a pretty good mimic, so I tend to pick things up quite well.
You're going to be great. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. Do you speak any other languages?
No, not at all. I can speak karate Japanese, which is like Japanese but completely unusable outside of a dojo. Particularly outside of Japan, right? The US and the UK, we have absolutely butchered the Japanese language to unrecognizable status. And a lot of karateka, honestly, they have no idea how badly we have murdered this very elegant language to within an inch of its life. We don't pronounce words correctly. We don't know how to phrase things. You know, we're not even at the level of like a toddler in terms of how to use the language. We just grunt these close approximations, you know, as best as we can. I try my best to understand where I can so that I don't look a complete fool around people that can speak. But I by no means profess to be anywhere close to proficient in the language at all. I'd love to put the time into learning. That's Japanglish is probably the best way to put it.
Well done, Taz. Yeah.
So yeah, I've not got any fluency in any other languages. I'd love to be able to, but it's just something that I've never put the time into.
Oh, wow. Did you have a favorite program growing up?
Power Rangers, and I still watch it now. I actually was it yesterday or the day before? I watched that they released like it was a nostalgia episode called Once and Always. So they had like some of the old Power Rangers that were around since I was 6. They had them all on this show. It was amazing. So yeah, I love that growing up. Other than that, it was all cartoons. So I grew up on the Marvel action era in the 90s. So, you know, like the old school X-Men, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four and that. I grew up on that sort of Fox Kids stuff. And then, you know, like my personal anime interests. So, you know, you're looking at things like Dragon Ball, Fist of the North Star. I could ream off a list of like 1,000 different shows that I've wasted time goggle boxing on.
Oh my goodness. Sounds just like me, Craig. Oh my goodness. Wow. I told you we had a lot in common, audience. This is what I mean, viewers, listeners there. You know, we've got a lot in common here. What was your favourite toy as a child?
Ooh, favourite toy as a child. I'll tell you what my favourite one was. I had an Action Man helicopter when I was about how old would I have been? About 9 or 10. It was awesome because it had like a pump action to it, and it flipped the wings out the side, and it shot like Nerf darts. It was mint, and you could fit the whole Action Man inside the helicopter. It was great. That's probably the one that stands out to me the most. I wish I'd have kept a lot of those old toys because like Action Man's really sort of sought after now. So you live and learn.
You know what worried me once, right? This will probably make quite a number of other people when they look back on the replay and they're like, "What the heck were you thinking, Phil?" I remember around the times on the action figures, right? Now, I used to look at the action figures and go, wow, as at what we look like. And there'd be a point when I look at it and my mum and my dad would laugh and they say, no, that's a toy. You don't look like that. And you can probably imagine Craig and just like, look, I'm like, oh, look, I was looking at it and I thought, that doesn't seem normal. I looked at the action figure and I thought, I looked at it and I thought, wow. Everything else on it, apart from the other parts of the body, I'm not even going to mention it. And I thought, and my mum, down to my own self-ignorance, my dad was laughing his head off. He just said, "No, son, that's a toy. Just remember, it's not real. You can't. You don't look like that. That's why it hasn't got the parts, all the full parts in it. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing missing." You know,
mind of a child, though, mate. Mind of a child.
It was so funny because I'd looked at it and one of my family friends and the neighbours were laughing. I was in this. It's like, imagine it's like it says strange things as well. Like, you know, when you watch programs where I'll never forget this. I think I might have said this to a few people in the episode. You know, like on the old cowboys and Indian films where, you know, you got an old back in the day where you have, I think even before we had the flat screens that we got now, we had the old school square box, didn't we?
CRT
you know, when those
TVs, yeah.
Oh yeah.
TVs, mate.
That's it. Really square box ones. And my dad used to say to me, and I think it was, that's right, it was like a wider film and a John Wayne film. And there'd always be a back end of a flipping horse sticking out. Sometimes you wouldn't see it from the front. You'd either see it sideways on for some reason, or its rear end facing the screen. I'm like, oh. And my dad used to say, look, you see that horse muck that's coming out? I said, be careful, because if you go around the telly, you might tread on it. And I'm like, oh. I was so flipping pig ignorant, right? I'd always look to try and see where the horse muck would be around the back of the freaking television. Oh, my mum and my dad were like, I think I've never seen them laugh so hard in their entire life. Right, and my dad said, no, you freaking Wally, it's on the television. And said, it's not in the back of the TV. And my dad used to get me all the time and just say, oh, look, go on, go in the back. You might have to be careful. Bring a dustpan and brush with you, just in case you might have to clear the horse muck out at the back. It falling out at the back of the telly. I was like, oh, my God. Couldn't believe it. But this is what I mean, you know, the way sort of things are. With regards to shower, do you sing in the shower?
Oh, it depends on my mood, I suppose. Sometimes.
Are you one of these people where the first thing you pick up is like a hairbrush or something you got in your hand and you make it out, you're singing in the bathroom and you don't think anyone's looking and your missus or a family member catches you out and they're like, I saw you, I heard you.
No, they're forced to get involved, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, in the shower, I'll barely fit in there as it is. So I'm trying not to pick things up and knock everything over half the time. It's a exercising yoga.
Oh my goodness! Have you ever danced in the shower?
No chance, mate. Absolutely. The size of me and the size of that shower cubicle, I can't afford to dance in the shower, mate.
Craig, you're so funny. Right. Now I've touched upon the shower. I'll tell you a little story now that will probably make your partner and yourself laugh. I forgot a key that my mum gave me because I could get in from school, high school. Now, you know those shower rails that they have that goes all the way around like that on an angle, like that. And I don't know why, but my mum's had this special plant pot thing that she has hanging around the thing. I thought, why would you have a plant pot thing hanging on a shower rail? Who does that? And I thought, freaking
like Home Alone, man.
Yeah. Well, this is what happened. She had one of these things hanging on the side somewhere. She's had it there for years. Out of all these years, I don't know why she had it there. It was an odd thing, but I don't know. It was kind of like the norm for her. So I've gone through this small piece of window. You know, like they have on. I think you have like two parts of a window. You know, you've got one going through the bathroom like that. And then you've got another bit on the side where you've got the tiny little window where you have to open it up to air the bathroom and it goes down. So I've gone through, and back in the day, okay, I had wide shoulders, but my hips, I managed to slide through legways through like from my feet inwards. And I had this garage where oh, you're funny, Daz. His payback. He's going to get his own back on me. Yeah, because I was telling him about... There's a little story on this afterwards I'll tell you about, Daz. I haven't forgotten you, Daz. I'm going to tell Craig. Right. I jumped on to my garage because I had this property on my house where I could sort of jump on the garage onto my bathroom bit where the window was. So that's how I got in. So I jumped up, and this little window, I went in. It was lucky the window was open because I could get the key back. So I've gone in from my feet inwards, and I got stuck. And I had about 10 of my friends laughing at me going, Phil, you're right. I was like, no, I freaking well ain't. It was like my legs are like that. I was like, I'm stuck. I'm like that. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And they said, look, breathe in a little bit and go sideways. And I thought, oh, freaking hell. So I could feel it. So I had to pull myself back out again. And I went in through my shoulders. So I went in that way. So I tried to do that. And when I did that, you could just see it the other way around. My legs were dangling like that. I'm going, I'm stuck. Oh, my goodness. I didn't know what to do. So I went in. And eventually, when I got in, oh, my goodness, I yanked the entire shower rail thing off. And I was like, oh, shoot, my mum's going to freaking kill me. So she pulled, I didn't just pull the shower rail down. The plant pot thing that's been there for I don't know how many years just fell down. It like broke. And all my mum could do when she got home, she was more worried about the plant pot. And she didn't say, oh, how dare you, Philip? You broke my plant pot. And my dad was in hysterics. He said, oh, but you're all right, though, aren't you? Yeah? Have you not asked how your son is? You're worried about the plant pot, but no, if you ask how your son is, to make sure he's all right. My dad was in hysterics. So I pulled the plant pot, pulled it up in the plant pot. I went down, went back out. And because I was so worried, I run out the door and I forgot to bring the key out. I was like, oh, God, freaking hell. So it was like, luckily, my mum came back in time. But I just thought I'd tell you that on there. Oh, yeah. And Daz, I have to mention this to Craig. On my previous episodes, I was asking about superheroes, Craig, right? And what he would do if he had 3 items on an island. And yeah, because he's got such a great sense of humour, Daz. Still right. But I said something about what would you have if you were stuck on an island? What 3 items? Now, his 3 items were his gi, his belt, and a banana. Right. And I thought, right, okay. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. banana. And because I remembered superhero, I said, "Oh, do you remember that guy who's called Eric, who once he ate a banana?
Banana Man.
It turned into exactly Banana Man." And then he couldn't stop laughing. I said, "Oh, so if you put the two together, you'd be a banana man in your gi, yeah, and eating a banana, you know." And apparently he has yellow nunchuckers, so they'd be like banana color looking nunchuckers. So now I never live it down. So apparently now some people call him Banana Man. So I've so it's like I'm the Cookie Monster, apparently, and he's the Banana Man.
Christ.
Oh no, it's not cruel, Daz. No, we love you, man. Daz, I'll tell you what, the reason why I call you Banana Man is because, number one, bananas are good for you. And secondly, it's a superhero, isn't it? And at the same time, it is kind of a fun superhero because he's actually a man, you know, when he eats a banana, and he's gone back into a boy again, Eric, when he isn't. So he's got the best of both worlds, isn't he, really?
There's worse things to be called, mate.
Oh yeah, apparently we need one for you, Craig. We've got a call. We've got one for you. Got to have one for you.
I've had enough nicknames over the years. Just Craig will do.
What about the Viking?
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Yeah. There you go. What about the Viking, Daz? We've got to call Craig the Viking. So come out. So be like, you know, see? We've got one for you now. See, I'm Cookie Monster. He's Banana Man, and you're the Viking. There you go. Oh, I'm loving this by the seconds. Oh my goodness. Anyway, just without further ado, just to try and make sure I'm not sort of prolonging this too much for you, what are your plans for the future?
To be honest, at the moment, I'm sort of leaning heavily into the martial arts stuff. So, try and get more of my written work out there to folks. The work on the Mushishugyo project that myself and James are working on, and really kick things up with a couple of other projects that will be announced in future. And yeah, world domination, mate.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. What? Oh, who would you have with you in a film if you were chosen for a role in the film?
Are we talking like actors?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Scott Adkins. Easily. I had the fortune to meet him at the UK Martial Arts Show. He was a really nice guy. Actually did a video shout out for my kids, which was awesome. And yeah, I mean, in terms of like up and coming actors and people I'd want to share a screen with, he's right up there with that because he's class. He's definitely the best we've got to offer in terms of sort of like action heroes from the UK.
Oh yeah, Accident Man on Holiday.
Yeah. Hitman's Holiday was awesome.
Hitman's Holiday, that's it. Hitman's Holiday.
The Debt Collector 1 and 2. We've got Boyka, yeah, the Undisputed series that he's in. He has been phenomenal. All of his roles. I mean, you can even go back to Ninja, Shadow of a Tear. Choreography on that was really tight. Absolutely phenomenal role played in that. You know, so yeah, he's the sort of person I'd want to star alongside if I had the option.
Class. Oh wow. Okay. Have you studied other disciplines of martial arts other than karate?
Not as deeply, but I've sort of dabbled. So I've tried my hand at a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've studied probably more Judo and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And I've probably sampled and tried just about everything you can think of, particularly over the last 6-7 years or so. I've sort of bounced around a lot of the seminar circuits, and if something catches my attention, I'll spend a bit of time and resources trying to learn anything that I can relate back to my foundation, which is my karate.
Oh, okay. Right, and then just a couple of questions just to wrap things up. I'm enjoying every single millisecond, Craig. You know what? I'm savouring every moment in this because I've enjoyed this part of the show so much. I'm actually thinking of planning when to have you back on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. This is how great it's been. Goodness. Wow.
We'll do specialised subjects in future. Do a martial arts one, do a film related one.
This is it. So well, this is kind of like a
oh no, we've lost him near the end.
Oh, there we go. Oh. Oh. Come on, Facebook. Come on, StreamYard.
It's back on now, mate.
It's only a couple of questions, StreamYard. Come on, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just a couple. Right, wrap things up. I'm so honoured and humbled to have you on the Phil Carew Show 2.0, Craig. What is your biggest fear? Do you have a big fear?
My biggest fear is dying earlier than I intend to, and leaving my kids behind before I've seen them grown into the men I believe they can become. That's probably the only fear I have. Before becoming a parent, I don't think fear was a concept in my head because I was too egotistical and stupid. But becoming a parent sort of grounds you in that sense. So passing away before I know that my kids have grown and are capable of looking after themselves.
No, that's fair enough answer. And lastly, just to round things off, what is the funniest moment you can remember?
I've got loads. So my missus has just mentioned one to me at a friend's wedding years and years ago. Besides giving my missus a lap dance, I also led a one-man Gangnam style with my tie wrapped around my head, looking fairly ridiculous.
Oh wow!
There is video evidence of that one. I've done a lot of stupid stuff actually, and they all revolve in and around me time spent with me sort of parkour friends. There was a good one actually, one that really stands out. I went into the ICC in Birmingham once, dressed as a Spartan, and shouted, "This is Sparta," as I climbed up on on some video as well. I've done a lot of stupid stuff. I danced in a tutu that I had custom made for me. That was on a live stream, actually. I will fish that video out for you. So I learned to do a 4-year-old's ballet dance whilst dressed in a tutu that was made for me, along with a headband as well, which I've still got. I've got those in a box at my dojo.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Well, this is about one of the funniest episodes I've done, Craig. If you look back on the Daz Sirat one about Banana,
for sure, yeah.
about Banana Man, seriously, mate. And this one as well. I haven't laughed so much apart from the two that I've done with Ez and yourself. It's just one of the funniest episodes I've done in a while. It's like, oh my goodness. Whew. Wow. I think you're going to have some fun seeing all the outtakes of this, because obviously we've been in and out, haven't we, of the way technology has treated us, Craig. So you can have a few laughs when you're watching this.
First world internet, mate. Never fails.
Oh, God. Right, folks. Thank you very much for watching and tuning in on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. And Craig, it's official now. I would love to have you back on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. And obviously, with a bit more sort of feature in sort of specific topics like film, gaming, and other bits and pieces like that. You're more than welcome to come on. And yourself, Daz, and other listeners and other guests that I've had before, in coming in, you're more than welcome to sort of comment, share, and make some suggestions as well for this show as well on the Phil Carew Show 2.0. Well, also live at the moment currently on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And soon in the foreseeable future, I have had sort of other features of my episodes on Twitter. This was only because I don't know what happened there with the YouTube channel at the time, but for some reason I wasn't able to have YouTube, but I did have it on Twitter, I think on the one occasion. So I may add that as well in the foreseeable future, depending on how things go. But, at the moment, I'm going to try and extract everything just to officially let everybody know that I will have some sort of feature where I can have it on Spotify. So, obviously if you're driving, everything else in the foreseeable future, I'm sure Craig as well, will be participating in some of those in the foreseeable future as well. Absolutely. So if you can't hear us, you'll be able to see us visually, on Spotify, because they've got a new feature now, haven't they, Craig? Where you can actually do, like they do with the Joe Rogan and Jake Pauls and things like that, where you can actually see people as well as hear them, or the option of or even sort of choose a feature of listening to us while you're driving. But and Daz Sirat said, just before we go, oh, there you go. See, fantastic. Right, folks, we're going to love and leave Mr. Craige Thompson and his wonderful stories of not just martial arts, but of what he actually gets up to and his hobbies outside the dojo. Right, don't forget to press subscribe, folks, because I know some of you have been watching and listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm sure you'll be more than welcome to sort of give a little, that's it, the button down there, the subscribe button, and a like and maybe a comment and some suggestions afterwards. If you haven't tuned in yet, watch us on the replay. This is Season 2, Episode 29. And like I said, just before we go, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thanks very much, Craig. Welcome to the Phil Carew Show. And it's been an honour having you on. And we'll
mate. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully have you on board. And it's nice to hear your wife in the background there as well, have a bit of a laugh as well, because just to be honest with you, to be transparent, just have a little laugh for your wife and yourself. I had an episode, and only once I did it. I wasn't able to actually come onto the actual camera. I had a bit of a technical difficulty. I was like, you know, the singer Sia, where you can't see her face, but I did the total opposite. It was more of you could just see my picture, but you can see my picture, but you could only hear my voice. So the person I was interviewing, 3/4 of the way, could not actually see me. 5 minutes towards the end of the interview, she said, "Yeah, hi Phil," and I thought, oh my goodness. After all that, she had like a mystery guy talking to her. She had no clue what I looked like behind the screen. 5 minutes towards the end, everyone gets to see me. I thought, oh, and you know what? Down to my own personal ignorance at the time, I forgot to press the camera button. That's all it was. What a complete and utter numpty I felt. And I thought I'd give that a quick giveaway laugh for you before we wrap things up. All right, folks. Thank you very much.
It's a miracle we got to the end, mate, but we made it.
It's not just that. We were also able to keep our faces in there, you know, as well as our voices, because I think when we were dipping in, all we could hear is ourselves. We couldn't actually see what was going on. So, yeah, folks, we're going to love and leave Mr. Craige Thompson now and enjoy the rest of the evening with your lovely lady and family members and the dog, and was it your couple of cats, wasn't it?
Cats, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky you haven't got that menagerie that I mentioned that my partner's sister had, because
ain't so bad. They challenge, mate.
Oof, my goodness. Well, at least I've got homes everywhere in the house, not like as if they're all in one place like a zoo. Oh my goodness. Right, folks. See you later, Craig. Thank you very much for coming. And folks, I'm going to have to sign out now. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to grab a quick cup of tea, folks. Right. See, Craig, look, we're trying to get off. Now it won't let us turn off. We're trying to stay on and it won't go. What's going on? Oh my goodness. Right. Here we go. We'll try that again. Take 3. Bye.
We'll wave again.
What's going on, Craig? We're trying to leave and it won't leave on the thing. Like the buttons, I think it's slow. There you go. There you go.